Right now at 6, frightening moments when an apartment building catches fire.
With the sprinkler going off, the fire was still sizable.
Plus, day 7 of the Portland teachers' strike, where negotiations stand and why some students are joining the picket lines.
No matter how long the strike goes on for, it's still going to be better in the end.
And in search of Oregon's best burger.
Never give up until you try. Never say no until you try.
The inspiring story of a father-son duo serving up the American dream.
Good evening, everyone. Let's get right to breaking news and a significant development in Portland's daytime camping ban with a late afternoon decision from a judge that essentially ties the hands of the city when it comes to enforcement. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm China Green. Mayor Ted Wheeler first introduced the ban in June and then announced last week enforcement would start on Monday. But lawyers representing homeless Portlanders scored a big legal win in court today. Evan Watson is in the newsroom tonight. Evan, explain what went into this decision.
Judge Rima Gondor heard arguments this morning from the city and the Oregon Law Center representing homeless people in Portland. Her decision today puts a pause on Mayor Ted Wheeler's bold proposals to tackle the homeless crisis. The proposed ban would not allow camping from 8 in the morning until 8 at night. It would also block camping near schools or in public parks. Penalties can include jail time and a $100 fine after 2 warnings. Today in court, attorneys for the Oregon Law Center argued that Portland camping ban ordinance is vague and difficult to understand. Many homeless people aren't sure what the city considers a campsite.
The city falsely claims that this does not regulate sitting, lying, sleeping. It regulates all of that and more.
Still, attorneys for Portland say the city has the right to decide what public land can be used for what camping and what can't. They claim the daytime camping ban ordinance is not broad because it doesn't stop people from standing, sleeping, or lying down in public places.
The campsite exists when people have set up their belongings as a place to live versus packed up their belongings in a way that they can be moved.
City attorneys also say Portland is allowed to institute the ordinance and stress something must change. In her ruling today, Judge Gondor said the court finds that plaintiffs made a sufficient showing to warrant preservation of the status quo so that upon a final hearing, full relief may be granted, effectively saying this should play out in court. So where does the city go from here? Mayor Wheeler said he believes the status quo is not working and this decision leaves it in place. He just issued a statement that reads, "The court's decision today makes the city's work harder, but the city is going to continue this fight and we hope to get a better understanding of the court's reasoning during this litigation." China?
All right, and to your headlines now. In the meantime, in Clark County, a daytime camping ban there is set to take effect next Friday. It was approved by county leaders Tuesday. According to the Columbia newspaper, the ordinance bars camping from 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. on county property, including vehicle camping. Violations will be treated as misdemeanors, but those who are cited will be eligible for a community court where they can connect with homeless services and drug treatment to have charges dismissed. A similar ordinance is already in effect within Vancouver city limits.
The FBI and federal postal inspectors are now investigating threatening letters that were sent to elections offices in at least 3 states this week. The letters closed down offices Wednesday in 4 Washington counties and in Eugene. In Renton and Spokane, authorities say the letters included a white powder that field tested positive for traces of fentanyl. Officials in Tacoma said a letter that arrived there was postmarked in Portland. And today, Georgia's Secretary of State said he was made aware of a fentanyl-laced letter that was sent to the Fulton County Elections Office in Atlanta.
We have a traffic alert for you on I-5 in Portland, where all northbound lanes onto I-405 remain closed. That's after a semi-truck carrying hay rolled over late this morning. ODOT says the trailer came loose and diesel fuel leaked onto the road. Traffic is being routed over the Markham Bridge, and right now the backup extends nearly to Southwest Capitol Highway. So if you need to access 405, you can continue north on I-5, then take the Fremont Bridge back across the river. Matt?
Thanks, China. And rain has been spilling out of the clouds all afternoon, too. And you can see it rolling into the Cascades. There's Mount Jefferson and the ceiling, the lower edge of the clouds, just kind of coming and going there. You see these showers pushing on through, so a fairly dramatic scene there. In Portland right now, low clouds hanging over the city. We've got rain and 49 degrees. The winds are light. Pressure is still falling rapidly as this cold front approaches us from the west. But the rain won't last all that long. We zoom out on Doppler radar. The back edge of the steady rain is already cresting the coast range right now. Yeah, there are showers coming in behind that, so we won't be completely dry, but the rain is going to taper off later on this evening and give us a break from what has been a very, very soggy mid to late afternoon. So showers will dwindle overnight, rainy and windy again late tomorrow night into Saturday morning. But that said, much of the weekend is going to be dry, which is certainly good news for those heading to the football games down the valley this weekend. The Beavers taking on the Sanford Cardinal at Reser Stadium. Showers in the morning for the Tailgaters, but then becoming dry. Game time temperatures in the 50s. Similar pattern down in Eugene. We'll have showers ending by 4 p.m. So for game time at 7:30, should also be dry. Guys?
Yeah, dry for the game sounded great. Thanks so much, Matt. Tonight, the Portland Public School District is setting the goal of getting tens of thousands of students back to class by Monday, though depending on your perspective here, some might consider that ambitious.
Yeah, this afternoon, dozens of students showed up to where mediation is happening, calling for a fair deal for their teachers and to an end to the strike. Alma McCarty has been covering the strike since day one and joins us live from Southwest Portland. Alma.
Well, David, China, I spoke with some of those students who gathered outside of this building earlier this afternoon about how they're feeling at this point during the strike and why they're advocating for their teachers.
Since the beginning of the strike, the Portland Association of Teachers has stressed that their demands and their actions have been focused on student success.
The teachers' support is foundational to the support of the students.
All right, we all want to go back to school. Thursday afternoon, dozens from elementary to high school showed up outside the mediation location to back their teachers.
Because we want to support our teachers.
They really do deserve all of what they're asking for.
I've always been a huge supporter of our teachers. I think what the district is doing to them is plain wrong.
Teachers are such a large part of your education, so it's really important that our teachers get the classrooms and the pay that they need in order to teach us well.
Whose schools? High schoolers across the district telling me they're out here because they've seen firsthand what educators face daily. They're pushing PPS to work swiftly with the union and reach a deal. One with wage increases for cost of living, with smaller classes, and with more planning time.
Just listen to what the teachers have to say, because I don't feel like none of this is really an unreasonable request.
It's important not only to the teachers but to the students, and that they have that responsibility is theirs.
Despite their attendance at Thursday's rally, they'd rather be in schools.
I mean, I already know that there are some classes where we're having to study on our own just simply to stay on track for where we are, because teachers can't teach, so we have to find other methods to do it.
Absolutely, I'm worried about catching up back in the classroom. You know, it's inevitable in a strike, but I think the strike is extremely well managed.
District officials writing they'll continue to meet in person Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and remain eager that we can reopen our schools to students on Monday.
And within the last couple of hours, we learned that an attorney for the school district filed an unfair labor practices charge against PAT for what they are calling unacceptable conduct that undermines the hard work of the bargaining team for two of yesterday's rallies. The attorney writing that those rallies were targeting members of the district, including board member Andrew Scott and the PPS chief of staff. We have reached out to PAT to get their response to that. Also worth noting that there will be no school tomorrow due to Veterans Day, so the earliest that kids could be back in the classroom is Monday, but that is only if both sides here reach a deal. David, China?
Yeah, giving everything we've heard, at least publicly from all sides here, that is still a very big if. Thank you, Alma. Stay with KGW for continuing coverage of the Portland teacher strike for as long as it lasts. You can find regular updates right here online at kgw.com and on the KGW app. All right, let's take you to North Portland now. In a fire at an apartment building that gutted one unit and caused smoke and water damage to others. The flames broke out this morning at the Unthank Plaza Apartments on North Williams.
And that's where we find Tim Gordon. Tim, this got a big response from fire crews.
Yeah, it certainly did. And the first crews here were here in less than 5 minutes. Based on what they saw, they called for more reinforcements to deal with this fire. It was a resident up on the 3rd floor that called 911 about 10:30 this morning to say that her apartment was on fire. That person got out, was unhurt. In fact, no injuries to report here, but check out the video from a viewer who was here as firefighters climbed a ladder to the burning apartment, the window already partially blown out by the heat. Now, they got an extinguisher on it from there. A sprinkler system in the building did go off on the 3rd floor to help tame this thing down. But obviously, a very scary situation with the fire and smoke. The first crews called for a second alarm right away, as I said. So dozens of firefighters rushed here, and while some worked the flames, others got residents out of the smoky.
It was a concern, and the evacuation of victims is the most important thing to us. So as soon as we could isolate the fire to one room, start the search of the rest of the structure, they were able to get people out pretty quick.
It woke me up. Yeah. I heard the alarm going off, so I went out the emergency exit down here, and that's Kim's apartment, and she had a heated blanket that went off. It caught on fire.
All right, so we're having some technical difficulties with Tim out there, but this was the unofficial talk. As you heard, the electric blanket was involved. That is unconfirmed at this point. Fire investigators are still at work. We do know that crews had their hands full knocking down the fire, making sure that everyone was safe during that fire there. And this is for affordable housing. It's a home forward building. They said that 26 units are affected. The others are still accessible. And we do know that the Red Cross Cascades are there to help those displaced. And Home Forward says one person did go to the hospital for smoke inhalation.
Yeah, glad folks have a place to go. Glad everybody is okay there. You're watching KGW News. Coming up, the